like to call to order the May 23rd, 2017 Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Present.
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Hennings.
Here.
Mr. Oper.
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Glykoff. We're going to go to student achievement.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. We've got kind of a two-part student achievement from the high school. Just recently, obviously, with our spring break, we had many high school students go on a Europe trip. I was quite jealous as I heard about their itinerary. I think they went through 5 countries, spent about 12 days in Europe, so wonderful trip. And so Mrs. Hulko wanted to talk a little bit about that, a couple students about their experiences. So Mrs. Hulko, you want to come forward?
So the students are really going to be chatting today, but I just wanted to come and thank the Board of Education and Dr. Glykoff for their continued support of the Europe trip. It gives us the opportunity to bring education to life outside the classroom. And Caitlin Lorenzo and Regina Ross are going to be talking today about the experiences that they had and sharing some pictures with all of you. And just, you know, thanking you for allowing them to do something different other than read from a book and read online and actually experience some of the places that they've seen in photos. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they are just 2 of about the 100 students that we've had the opportunity of traveling with over my 14 years here, and they're a great example of those we've brought with us in the past and will bring in the future. So, ladies, thank you.
So hi, I'm Caitlin, and I just wanted to share some of my favorite things from Europe. When we first got there, it was a little rough. We had to learn how to live on our own, and that was harder for some people than for others. But no matter who you ask, I guarantee that food was on the top of the list for whoever you asked. And it may be a joke, but it was a lot of fun because we only spoke English, so it was trial and error. You had to just guess and check and order. You just had to point. And that was probably one of my favorite things. Because I feel as Americans that we are so accustomed to our normals and what we do on a daily basis and the foods that we eat, that we had to just step out of our comfort zone and try new things because there was not another option. Another thing that made this trip so special for me is that it opened a lot of opportunities for more travels in the future. I know a lot of people that went on the trip that it was their first time traveling, and afterwards they told me that they wanted to travel abroad in college now because it was just an amazing trip for them. And I honestly feel that this trip really helped all of us become more well-rounded people, and it opened us to everything the world has to offer.
Like Caitlin said, a lot of people wanted to study abroad after this, and I think that's good because traveling is an important part of learning, but that's not something we can learn in the classroom. And I think this trip might have been one of the most important but enjoyable parts of my education, and I would like to thank you guys for approving these kind of trips, and I would like to, and I hope that you guys would approve them in the future too, so that other students like my brothers that want to go on the trip can also go on the trip.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is like just bus one in front of the Eiffel Tower. That was like one of the highlights of the trip, I would say. And then this picture's from Germany, this picture's from Italy, and this picture's from Switzerland. So we have pictures from basically everywhere that we went, but these are just a few of my favorite scenery pictures. These were pictures of food. This was in Italy, that was in France, and there was one in Germany too, but I don't know where it went. And then these 2 pictures were taken in Germany. That one is where we rode bikes around Germany. Like, not everyone drove cars constantly there. They would walk or like ride their bikes, and I thought that was cool that we got to experience part of that too. And then this was the Eiffel Tower being one of the highlights of the trip, this was some of my favorite pictures. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job. Appreciate it.
Certainly, one of the things you said about feeling when you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, you feel almost at a loss. And I remember coming back and talking to the board after I went to China, and boy, you now have a new appreciation for how new immigrants to the United States feel if they don't speak the language, and you feel at a loss. I felt like I was pointing to things like I'd like that, but it's interesting you get that perspective, and studying abroad is much more prevalent today for college students. I always talk like I'm some old man, but way back when, and when I was in school, it wasn't big. It wasn't a big deal, but now it's much more prevalent, and you see a lot more opportunities for kids. So that's good that you had that. Thank you for sharing that.
Good
today.
job.
The second half of the report is an athletic report from Mr. Calber, and he's going to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of athletics for the school year.
It's a tough act to follow right there. But my stomach is rumbling right now. So, athletic-wise, just this past weekend, we have a 9th grade female track student who qualified for regionals, which will be this Saturday at Austintown. Jaden Walls finished 2nd in districts for the long jumps. She'll be competing this weekend in Austintown to move on, hopefully to go on to state tournament, which is the following weekend. So congrats to Jaden so far, and good luck to her. If Jaden should make it to states, that'll make 3 seasons this year where we've had state competitors. So we've had golf, bowling, and wrestling, and then hopefully track here with Jaden. So congrats
How
to
far is her
Jaden.
jump, do you know?
Coach Symanski is her coach, one of the coaches. Remember
How
what
far is
the
her jump?
jump was?
She qualified with 15.7.
Wow,
The furthest she's jumped, though, was 16.1.
that's pretty good.
Looking at what the state results were last year to get to states and all that, Jaden has a very good chance to make it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully Jaden can perform well on Saturday, but we're proud of what she's done so far. Since this is the end of the year, I have some participation rates that I'd like to share with you on athletes in the high school and in the middle school. In the fall, we had a 25% rate for athletic participation in the high school, and in the middle school, that was at 20%. And when I say middle school, it's 7th and 8th grade is what I'm compared to. I know the 8th grade is into the high school, but when it comes to interscholastic sports, it's still considered middle school. In the winter, we had a 20% rate for high school and 20% rate for middle school. And then in the spring, we had a 19% rate for the high school and an 8% for the middle school. So our track numbers weren't as high at the middle school as we'd like, but we're hoping now with just Jaden, it's the first time she did a long jump. She's already at regional, so hopefully that can attract more. It looked like at first we weren't going to have a middle school track team. We ended up finishing with 18, and the kids had fun and competed until the very end there. I know their last event, they were at Byers Field and fared very well here. So those are the participation rates for both high school and middle school. We have some exciting summer programs coming up. One of them is through our athletic trainers company, NovaCare, and NovaCare is who we hire our athletic trainer through, and a couple other high schools have hired NovaCare to run summer weightlifting program. Well, we have our great facility, our great wellness center now, so we the coaches and I sat down and discussed how can we make the most of what we have there. Something different, instead of just having our coaches go in and run their own weight programs. Through the generous donation of the boosters, we're able to go through NovaCare, and what NovaCare is going to do is run a Brooklyn Strength program. And I'm going to read to you the description here. NovaCare's Beyond Physical Therapy program is a goal-oriented strength and conditioning program geared towards giving every athlete an individualized, age-appropriate program designed to increase athletic performance and decrease the risk of injury by integrating biomechanical training with total body training to create a well-rounded athlete. All programs are designed by a professional in the NovaCare system. Athletic trainers, physical therapists, certified strength and conditioning specialists, and exercise scientists have all come together to create the best programs for every athlete, and will individualize these programs to match your goals. So our goal is to get as many of our student athletes to participate in this. There will be a small entry waiver that we're gonna ask kids to pay for, but the boosters are covering about 95% of this cost. The only cost we're asking the students to hold them accountable, it's an 8-week program where it's 3 days a week for this program. Initially, since we just have our program here started, it's the basics in strength and conditioning. Eventually, these therapists and these doctors are gonna work with our coaches to design it for individual sports and all that. But we're at the rate right now where we have so many athletes that play multiple sports and all that. This is just your basic and how to prevent injuries and gain strength and all that. And luckily with our facility, the doctors came in and the therapists came in and said, you have a great facility to run this program here. So we're excited about that. The coaches have started to spread the word to their athletes. And actually just today and still going on in the cafeteria, we had physicals today where we had over 50 kids come. And NovaCare donated 3 doctors to come and give physicals to our students. And there's a minimal cost to it, and that cost goes back into the boosters, which then gets turned around for this NovaCare program. So we are excited about this program. It has been successful at other high schools around the area here, and the coaches are looking forward to it, and I know the NovaCare staff is looking forward to working with it too. So, lastly, we have included in our summer programs, we have a youth volleyball camp, youth basketball camps, and a youth football camp all going on over the summer. We have summer coaching for all of our sports going on here, and we're looking forward to hopefully increase in numbers and continued success moving forward next year. So thank you for your support. Any questions?
Anybody? No.
All right.
Did well.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Calver. Appreciate it. And certainly one of the things I've shared with you, we also have some, even though it's May, we have fall recommendations for our fall sports and coaches on there as well. So we're getting into the season there, preparing for it. So that is the student achievement report for tonight.
I'm sorry, can I ask Mr. Culbertson? So are we sending out flyers? Because I've been asked by parents, how are we letting students know about, like,
These
the
programs.
Yeah.
We've sent out flyers, and one of our programs that we use, we just started using in the winter and the spring, was Final Forms. So any athlete, middle school or high school that's going to participate in an athletic sport has to sign up for these Final Forms. And what Final Forms does for us, it eliminates all the paperwork from students having to turn in all that. And it's also supposed to set up a communication system. So to sign up for this, the parent has to put an email, and they're supposed to put an email address for their student also. And with one click, I can send an email to an individual team, or I can send it to everybody signed up that has notifications that are in there. Now, we are still making copies. I know this paperwork was sent out throughout the schools and all that. Twitter's also one of the social media outlets that we've gone through. But I know that these and the physicals have been passed out throughout the day and all the classes there. But hopefully with Final Forms, it's a matter of, all right, parents, you've signed up for this email. Please continue to check it, because that's where we're sending notifications. And it's supposed to be quicker and easier and save paper and be a better way to communicate on it.
if parents aren't on Final Forms now, is it on our website? Is there a way for them to?
There is information on the website.
Yeah, okay.
And Dr. Glykoff, I don't know if you want to move forward with that. But, one of the things that, it's not finalized yet.
VNN,
Process, yes.
I shared it with them in my report. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Varsity News Network, which is a new athletic website that we will be running. And the best thing about that is communication. So if I'm a softball parent, I can sign up for softball alerts, and anytime with the great spring we had, if there's a cancellation, you can sign up for just an email alert, you can sign up for a text message alert, and anytime I or the coach changes anything on that website, an alert gets sent right to those parents and all that. I've noticed a lot of schools are doing their registration through that site, so we're hoping to move forward with that also. But that new site it's exciting. It's going to take us, I think, into the next level when it comes to communicating and showcasing our students because of the pictures. You can write recaps, a lot more publication for our kids. Because in Cuyahoga County, unfortunately, there's not much coverage when it comes to athletics and all that. But in regards to communicating with parents, so between Final Forms and this new website, they're going to have endless opportunities digitally. And then, if needed, we can still always send out paperwork and all that. Having Mrs. K in the lunchroom where she reaches almost everybody, she's always a main contact too.
Should be no excuses, right?
Yeah, should be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Everybody's good? All right. Next, we're to get comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state her name, and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anybody likes to speak? Name and address.
Hello, everybody. Apologize, I really don't know anybody here except for Annie and Barb and Rick. My name is Stephen Herbick. I live at 4402 South Amber Drive. I'm here today on a rather unpleasant note. I'm here to call for the resignation or termination investigation into the termination of Robert Hennings as a school board member. On the afternoon of on the Saturday of April 29th, Robert Hennings posted on social media that he would physically assault me and break my bones, specifically all of my fingers, if I were to go near his home or his mailbox to distribute campaign literature along with my daughter. I'm assuming it's related to my stance against issue 3, which was fortunately overwhelmingly denied by Brooklyn residents. But it's hard to imagine that this type of individual would be allowed to continue on as a school board member with such violent tendencies. It's absolutely inexcusable. He should be aware also, as a school board member, of our First Amendment rights, especially as it pertains to free speech in our democracy and fair and open elections. The way to oppose an opinion should never be through physical threats, intimidation, or bullying of any kind. His physical threats, his methods of intimidation and bullying clearly violate the Brooklyn School Board Code of Ethics, Code of Conduct, specifically but not limited to Section 0120, Powers and Ethics. If action is not taken against Mr. Hennings, it sends a loud and clear message that bullying and intimidation are not only condoned, but encouraged in the Brooklyn School Board. I do have corroborating evidence, and I do have residents that are also willing to confirm the statements that are saying are true. So I'm hopefully that the board members will take this very seriously, and I will be happy to provide any and all information that you need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next, we're going to go on to the superintendent's report.
This will also have two parts to it. The first part, I am going to introduce Michael Symanski. Just so you get a little context here, as part of the first ring, which we're one of the 16 districts that ring the city of Cleveland. There's many different programs that we're involved in, one of which is our Leadership Academy. And on a yearly basis, we nominate individuals for the academy. In this past year, it was focusing on teacher leaders. And so at the beginning of the year, I came to Michael and I said, I'd like you to be a part of this academy if you so choose, and he willingly accepted. And it's been a really great opportunity. It's been something the First Ring has done for probably the last 10 years. And part of the Leadership Academy is a project. And so he did a project this year that I wanted him to kind of talk a little bit about, because I think it certainly is something that is a strength of his, but also a great interest of his, and I think it certainly benefited us as a school and school district. So, Mr. Symanski, I'm going to leave it to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gleichoff. First, I wanted to thank the board for, two purposes, for having me be part of the first ring that Dr. Gleichoff recommended me for. I appreciate that. It proud of me. I summed it up. A year in the first ring leadership was like an internship in my master's. We address a lot of issues and concerns within the first ring of Cleveland school districts, and it was a great forum to our monthly meetings to discuss problems and problem solve current issues and trends. And the second part, I wanted to thank the board for granting permission to implement this project of the Groovy Granola Cafe. I know it has a funny, cute name, but there's a lot behind it. And hopefully you'll see through the pictures, and when I further discuss the project, the benefit of the project, not only for the students, the staff, and the community. And I also wanted to thank Paula Jones, Ms. Hostetler, Mara, and John for all the support and guidance along the way. Sandy Neal, Part of the first ring, which I liked with this project, was I had to meet with building administration, the treasurer's department, student services. You know, it was a collaboration. So it wasn't just putting together a cafe and having the kids work. I got to see the legalities behind it and really what goes on behind putting a project together. And that'll be instrumental, I believe, in my future career, hopefully as, you know, an educational leader. This really, I can honestly say, is my 6th year at Brooklyn, and this has been the best year I've had. You know, this is something, you know, I look back at my educational philosophy at Cleveland State, and, you know, the whole theme was about preparing for the future. You know, working with kids with multiple disabilities and preparing for the future and having those links in the curriculum. And having something like this cafe provided that. The students had hands-on opportunity for, you know, it's nice, sure, in classroom to maybe work with money and do money worksheets, but they actually had, you know, a cash box and we were working with real money. You know, and social skills, you could do all the role playing you want, but we actually had customers come in and we actually did deliveries. So it was, you know, real life situations. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but really the highlight to the project was hearing the kids say over and over again that was their favorite, not only their favorite day of the week, but I often heard the best day of their lives. You know, and I'm not just making it up. You know, we have thank you notes from staff members for providing the services. And again, it was just like, it was a win-win for all. So I want to click through some of the pictures, and we're going to have some of the students. I was speaking with Paul about presenting. I ultimately wanted to have some students come and speak, but they were obviously a little shy. So I said, how about we film a couple of you? They're seniors that are graduating, so they were okay with it. So here you'll see, we were prepping for our orders. We would get the orders on an order sheet, and we would individualize them in the boxes, and the students then would take them over to the counter here. Again, the students are working in like a real situation with other staff members, but you know, they're adults, they're not just their peers. This is behind the scenes, then behind the counter when they're getting the order and they're trying to figure out who needs what. And it was funny, I know I've told administrators before, and I was telling Annie, you know, at first I wrote up the order form and you know, the students were having a hard time reading them, and one of the students did, you know, demonstrated some problem solving. He said, why don't we number all the products? You know, instead of calling it a Belvita double chocolate, whatever, you know, they're like, I need a number 5. I'm like, exactly, you know. So this was something that, you know, they were able to see put together, you know, on their own. You can go ahead and click, thank you. This is more, we had 2 doors. We had the drop-off window where the students would take the items to the door, and Joshua usually ran the back part, and he would kind of delegate from there where it needed to go. All right, so when the order was filled, they'd pick it up at the pickup window. So it was 2 different doors. All right, we were set up in the hallway of the cafeteria. You know, things I learned with the first ring leadership and working with Sandy and student services was we weren't allowed to actually sell out of the cafeteria, so we were allowed to sell like in the hallway. So this is great things that I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So you know, things that go behind the thought process behind it. So we set up a table with our cash box, and we had order forms for anyone that wanted to come up for walk-ins. And so again, this is another opportunity. Vanessa, she's graduating, but you know, she would work with money and working with customers and the social skills and academic skills that went along with this. We also made t-shirts. We try to make tie-dye t-shirts, so the kids wore those every Friday as kind of like a job in uniform. We were able to use the refrigerator to have some cool items, so like Greek yogurt, apple juice. So it was all like healthy. It was part of the health and wellness initiative as well too, because we received funding from Medical Mutual. And so the products all had to be on a healthy nature, even though some of the staff were requesting otherwise, but we had to stick to healthy snacks. This is Matt Robeson. He's graduating. He also helped, you know, retrieve the different items. You know, we had our little counter set up with the different items and numbered. So we were out in the community. You know, it's again community-based instruction at its finest. We were out at Gordon Food Services. We had 2 different type of order forms. Students that pretty much, you know, are working on reading or trying to, you know, that aren't able to read. We had a picture shopping list. And the other students, we had like a regular shopping list. And so when the picture ones were nice, they were able to match out, you know, what product went with what. We have a student that's fairly new from Thailand, and she was able to find the apples, you know, saw on the sheet apples, and, you know, she pointed apples and grabbed them. So again, getting everyone involved. All right, there's Mac, you know, he's reaching for the bananas. Huen is the student from Thailand, picking up our skinny popcorn. I believe Miss Jones, that's one of her favorites. All right, some words from the seniors. All right, I had a lot of problems implementing this today in our PowerPoint, so hopefully it's going to come out okay.
Don't know.
I don't know. What did you learn about work?
Are we able to turn it up a little bit or no?
Well, I learned about lab skills and I learned about work
I'm sorry.
relations skills and I learned about that.
Right. And what was your favorite part about working in the cafe?
Well, my favorite part was working social outside of the Groovy Cafe and
Social with who?
like Miss Erin, Matt, Vanessa, John,
Thank you.
I know it was a little soft, but he, pretty much said his math skills he learned and then the social interaction.
He's a good kid. I stop in that room down there when I come in. Those guys are
Yeah, they're all
fun.
great.
They're a lot of
kids.
fun.
Yeah. All right, this is Matthew.
Okay, Matthew, what did you learn by working in the Groovy Granola Cafe?
Oh, I learned I have to focus and listen, pay attention to give people their orders and stop right there, just think about other stuff.
Thank you. What was your favorite part about working in the cafe?
Well, if a teacher comes right over here, can I have water bottled? I say no, pay over here.
So that goes along with
That is
which
it.
is pretty funny because a lot of people would come to that back window that was in the cafeteria, and we have to tell them, no, we can't sell from here. You have to come in the hallway. So he got a kick out of doing that job. All right, there's one more.
Hello, I'm just a little one.
Hi, Joshua. What did you learn about working in the cafe?
I learned to control my patience more, even though it was a little bit anxiety of working with other people.
What was your favorite part about working in the cafe?
Giving commands, to being the leader. So I tell you guys come and help us in the error system.
Did you enjoy your time working in the cafe?
Yeah.
Thank you, Joshua.
And Joshua hit the nail on the head where it was funny kind of taking a step back, and it got hectic back there. There's a lot of things going on, but it was good for them to experience that, to know in a real life setting if they're working at some type of deli or some type of counter type work that, yeah, it's going to get stressful. So, and we would talk about it though. Like, I'd be like, how are you feeling right now? What do you need to do? And so it was a great experience. I really can't thank you enough. Like I said, this has been my 6th year, and I've enjoyed all my experiences I've had in the classrooms at Brooklyn. But this has been a home run for me. This is something when I started at Brooklyn, I felt needed to be implemented, and so it's a great just everything came together, and it's a great project, and you can see firsthand how the kids took off with it and was successful. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good job.
That's my breakfast every Friday.
There you go.
Mr. Streett was
A regular?
Mara, can you go over to my PowerPoint? It's on. It's just on the desktop. If you exit, it's right behind me. There it is.
Okay, sorry.
Can I control it, or you don't have to?
You
miss-
can. You just turn
Yeah,
the
do this
mouse
one.
on. It has to be turned on.
Alright, so, yeah, it's not working.
And the keyboard has to be turned on also.
Can you give it a click for me? We can click one more. Thanks again. He's also a graduate of the First Ring Leadership Academy as well.
Good job.
Didn't note that. Transportation shared services. I've spoken a little bit about this the last couple of meetings, couple of months. At this meeting, we were actually anticipating perhaps having an agreement with Parma City Schools and ourselves. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that timeline in just a moment. But I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that contract today, that potential contract. If you could give it a click, that would be great. You can click through this and just have this 1, 2, and 3. Okay, again, just where we are in terms of transportation right now. I don't want to rehash this too much, but our current situation, obviously, we have an aging fleet, inefficiencies. Basically, what that is we've got very large buses traveling around with very few kids on them. I think on a daily basis, we we transport probably somewhere about 65, 70 kids. So of a district of 1,400, that's certainly inefficient. Next one, please. When we sat down at the beginning of the year after having that agreement with Teamsters to perhaps subcontract, we started talking with neighboring districts as well as other companies to figure out, where would our shared services options be. And these were the things that we emphasized: safety, service, opportunities for our current employees, as well as cost savings. Next one. And so at this point, we have a potential agreement. And I say potential, and I put that in emphasis there because certainly it is one that we have to have Parma City Schools agree to, and then also us here in Brooklyn. So we're on a little bit of a delay pattern right now because of, unfortunately, the passing of Rosemary Gulick over in the Parma board, and so we're hoping, and I'll get to the timeline in a moment, that hopefully that'll be in the next week or so. But let me go through some of the pieces of that. So, because I shared this with you in my report, but I wanted to just kind of highlight some of the big points on it. First of all, it's this contract, this agreement for shared services between Parma and Brooklyn would be for a 1-year term. It has the ability to renew on it. One of the things that we really spoke about was, well, what if we need enough time to perhaps renew it for the next year? And so we looked at really January 31st of the year to be the deadline of saying, hey, if either party says they don't want to renew it for the next year, that gives us enough time to go out and either rent vehicles or find another service to do that. Payment structures, and I think I shared this at a work session, but how do we come apart to how much we would be billed on this? Looked at office and administrative staff. And actually, one of the conversations that we had, in Mr. Streett, myself, Bob Harmon, who's down at ODE, as well as some of the Parma representatives, we sat down and had a phone conference with him, and he talked very specifically on how that needed to be computed. And so those are being followed there. Then, of course, we looked at routes. We looked at some of our special education routes. Achievement Center is a place that we go specifically. We had some Brooklyn-only routes. Certainly, our travel of our students to Polaris is a very unique Brooklyn route, so that was computed in there. But one of the things of shared services is we're going to the same places. There's about 3 or 4 different special ed places that actually both Brooklyn and Parma students go, so there is an economy of scale that can be saved there by all of us doing that. So there's some shared routes, and we're basically taking a percentage. If we got 50% of the kids on it, we're taking 50% of the cost. And then, of course, field trip costs. We look at, and this is why it's important to do it on a yearly basis, the contract, because you're looking at gas prices, you're looking at contract prices, you're looking at a lot of things that could fluctuate depending on year to year. One of the things that was important within this contract, and I said that was our emphasis, is that every one of our drivers and our monitors currently in the Brooklyn City Schools was offered a position in the Parma City Schools. So we have 4 drivers, we have 4 bus monitors, and all of them have had the ability to do that. And certainly, I think we have at least 1, perhaps 2 of our current membership who is going to be taking positions there. Obviously, there's a lot of nuts and bolts. Safety pieces, what's going on with insurance, bus inspections, those are all being insured to us by Parma. Things that we have to do bus safety or bus evacuation drills. Again, those still have to be done regardless of the fact that we don't have a bus in district, and Parma will be taking care of that. Quarterly billing. Well, why would I put that in there? Well, this was a point that we made and talked a lot about, because on a quarterly basis, we want to do the billing, but we also want to make sure that there might be fluctuations in students enrolling in specific areas or not. As Ms. Jones knows probably well, is that we might have a student that might be in Achievement Center during the first quarter and then may not be. May go to another school district, may be brought back to the district, may be going to a different site. So we know that on a quarterly basis there might be fluctuations of our student body going to specific sites or not. Termination of contract clause. Pretty standard language, but we wanted to really talk about that, of how could one party or the other say, you know what, we don't want to necessarily do this. and we tied it directly to the contract. It would have to be a violation of this particular agreement. To be very frank, I was concerned about just cause. And because certainly Parma right now is their financial situation has been, well renowned. I didn't want it just to be, well, it's a financial consideration, they don't want to do it. We made sure that the termination on their end would have to be tied directly to the contract. So that was something that we did have quite a bit of conversation about, because that was something, as I've shared with you at the offset, is this something we wanted to get into, and would their board, and would they be able to support that given their financial situation? This is also a unique piece here. It's not a joint venture clause, and I think when I came to Brooklyn 2 years ago, I heard a lot of things like, we're just going to be gobbled up by Parma, and they're going to just take us on, and I don't know where that all of a sudden came from. But this is just simply saying that this is a one piece. We're talking about transportation services. We're not talking about, Parma City Schools has taken over the Brooklyn City Schools. It's one aspect of our particular organization that we feel as a shared services agreement is more efficient for us. And certainly it has some benefits for them as well. And it's certainly one of the things that we talked about in, Mr. Coos, who's their director of operations, we talked about calamity day provisions. How does that work? Because, what happens if all of a sudden Parma has a calamity day and we don't? And what if they can't run their buses and we need those? So fortunately, Parma being our close neighbor, we have a lot of conversations on those mornings when we do have inclement weather. So chances are that if we're going to have a day off in terms of inclement weather, more than likely we would be anyways. But what about those situations if their buses don't run? We need to know that here in Brooklyn early enough so that we can either make some sort of adjustments on that. So we've got some language in there that goes through and goes through those considerations. So those are some of the pieces of that. I know I share it with you, but I wanted to kind of hit some of the highlights within that. If you go to the next, here's kind of the timeline. And Parma right now is in the midst of trying to identify perhaps a fifth board member and proceed with their work. They're looking at either next Tuesday or potentially Monday the 5th for the approval of the agreement. As they're the vendor in this case, they would approve the document first, and then we would do it subsequently. So that's something that once I get an idea date for them, I'd like to get a text or something out to you guys to try to identify a time when we can do it.
We have a work session coming up, correct?
And I think we're going to talk about that in other
Right.
business to try to identify that.
Right.
So, that at that Parma approval, though, they'll also do a resolution to hire any of the Brooklyn City Schools employees who have chosen to be employed there as well. So that way those folks will have that employment. Then we will approve the agreement subsequent to that. Then what we will do, and Mrs. Neal and I are already trying to kind of put things in motion for this, is because we've got some employees who then choose not to go to Parma, they want to stay in the particular Teamster organization but stay within classified ranks, they'll then have seniority and then may bump into other positions. So like we've had to do in other situations, we'll have some bumping situations for those folks. So that's kind of the timeline of where we are currently, but I wanted to kind of give you some of the highlights of that contract.
Appreciate that.
What questions do you have?
Just set it in motion, see how it rolls.
I know we've talked a lot about it over the last several months, but I wanted to kind of get you the Reader's Digest version of that.
Puts it in focus.
So that concludes my report for tonight.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Mara.
On to the Treasurer's report, and we're going to talk to Mr. Streett.
Okay. The first item is the City of Brooklyn has provided notice to the board that council intends to consider the passage of an ordinance approving the Community Reinvestment Area Agreement that they sent to us, and it's related to property owned and operated by Brooklyn Point. Brooklyn Point will redevelop, construct, and operate a 68,000 square foot senior living community consisting of 58 assisted living apartments and 22 memory care units. The city views this application as a job retention project. The new construction piece is expected to employ approximately 32 full-time and 12 part-time workers by the third year. Construction is expected to begin on August 5th and end on July 31st, 2018. The estimated cost of everything into this project is $12.1 million. The Brooklyn Point is asking the city, which affects us also, for a 50% tax abatement for 10 years. The rules and regulations regarding tax abatements, the city just has to notify the board that they are going to vote on this ordinance. If it goes over that 50%, you as a board would have the ability to have a no vote. But in this case, this is just a notice because they have not gone over that 50% abatement. So if the city does pass this, there would be the 50% tax abatement for 10 years for this Brooklyn Point. A positive note besides the employment, construction, and is that the schools will share in payroll taxes, a percentage of payroll taxes above $1 million worth of payroll and new payroll, and it's estimated at this point that there would be $1,450,000 of new payroll generated by this project, and we would share in a percentage of that amount over $450,000. The city had sent that over for Dr. Glykoff to sign, wanted to make sure that the board was aware that that was taking place. And again, by law, the board really doesn't have a no
Say so.
vote, no say on it, but just to let you know that that's taking place.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Next item is wanted to make sure that the board was aware. Things happen so fast sometimes that the permanent improvement levy unfortunately failed on May the 2nd. If we don't renew it with an increase, as was on the May 2nd ballot, we will lose the initial millage, that 1 mil. If we don't do it within this year, the next election that's available to us is November, and the board would have to instruct me prior to Wednesday, August 9th, to go to the Board of Elections to put an issue on the ballot. And if you recall from our last procedure, there are 2 resolutions, usually at 2 board meetings, that need to take place, plus the board would have to decide first of what they wanted to put on that November ballot. So I just give that to you as a heads up that time goes pretty fast, so we'll have to start talking in earnest about that pretty soon.
Correct.
Okay.
I think we did speak about a work session coming up, and that'll be one of the items, I'm sure of that. So, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is it.
All right, appreciate it. We're going to go to comments from board members and board committee reports. We're going to start off with Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the parents and citizens of Brooklyn and the grandparents who came out to vote this May 2nd and support our permanent bond levy, money that was to be earmarked for maintaining our buildings and facilities. Without these capital improvement funds, we as a board must make decisions on where to get the money to fix things or replace things like leaky roofs. Unfortunately, as our treasurer, Mr. Streett, mentioned, it did not pass this past May, and I pray that we can rally our community to support the need to properly maintain our investments. With this said, I'm excited that we can participate in Senate Bill 264 project sponsored by the state of Ohio. These funds will be utilized strictly for guaranteed energy savings by replacing the lights to LED lights, controlling the airflow in the kitchen, hoods, and avoid releasing warm air in the winter. Also involves installing energy management systems. So I hope our board will consider the recommendations of the Finance Committee and move to save our district tens of thousands of dollars on utility bills. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Al Baco from Stifel Nicholas, along with our treasurer, Mr. Streett, and discuss the savings and refinancing our bond loan. We move to recommend that we continue to pursue the refinancing of our bond loan, and I think we've kind of passed through some of the hurdles of getting moving on the refinancing. Initial projections show that we could save well over $60,000 a year, could be more, and those savings will go directly to our taxpayers. I would like to congratulate our seniors and 2017 graduates that we're going to honor tonight. May you find great success in everything that you seek. Never quit. Always show your pride as a hurricane. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. On to Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everyone who presented today. Thank you to the seniors who came and told us about their Europe trip, and for the Groovy Granola Cafe. Just to let the students know, we always love food. This board loves food, so we definitely would like the cafe. But I would like to thank everybody who came and presented. With only 7 days of school left, I know the kids are excited and looking forward to summer break, and the teachers are in need of a relaxing break also. And with summer comes one of the actually busier times of year in the school district for Mrs. Neal and the cleaning staff, and those are the unsung heroes that really don't get the recognition of what they do for our school system and our school building, and what they do to make sure that when we open those doors in August, that they're coming back to a clean building with, they do all the repairs in the summer, so they really do a lot. So, I would like to also recognize them as well. I would also like to make sure that I say to the teachers, enjoy your break. I'm sure you've definitely earned it. Next Sunday is my favorite day as a board member, graduation. It is an honor to be a board member and to participate in graduation ceremonies. It truly is important to me. It is something that I take very seriously, and it really, truly is an honor for me to be a part of the graduation ceremonies. It means a lot. I want to congratulate our seniors who will be graduating next week. I'm sure you'll do great things, and remember, you are always a hurricane. I want to wish everyone a safe, relaxing summer break. I don't want to be redundant, but I would also like to say some of the things that my fellow board member Rick said. I'd like to thank everyone who came out and voted. I would also like to say that we, as a board, speaking about food, we had an excellent dinner at Polaris. I don't want to take any of Mr. Oprah's thunder, I'm sure either, but an excellent, amazing dinner at Polaris. I'm sure he's going to speak more about it, but those kids are beyond talented. I can't even pronounce some of the things that we had at that dinner, let alone make it. So that I wanted to mention, and if anyone would like to speak with me, I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. And everybody have a great summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to Mr. Hennings.
Thanks, Mr. President. Most everything that has been said I've already had written down here, but it's been a good year for the kids. I'm glad they all had a good time. We had a lot of good things going. The football games were always good. The drama club had a great showing for the play. The track team had a real good showing this year. The baseball team did well, and most of all, the hockey team, top notch right there. I know our softball team and baseball team fared pretty good. So, we had a good year. Ryan's right with all the state qualifiers we had. Things are definitely turning around. If everybody gets a chance, the Cobras will be playing another football game, 3 more at the stadium. It wasn't a real good showing, but there was about maybe 100 people out there. The boosters made some money. Everybody made a little money, and it turned out well. Everybody acted responsibly, and it was good to go. I know my son's looking forward to summer vacation now that he has a job. And that's about all I have, and congratulations to all the graduates.
Appreciate it. On to Mr. Oper.
Thank you, Mr. President. As my fellow board members have already stated, I'd like to thank everybody for presenting tonight. It was very good. I'd like to welcome Ms. Plitsky from council. It's here. Last night was graduation night for Polaris at the Grace Christian Missionary Church in Middleburg Heights, which I attended along with Dr. Glykoff and Ms. Hostetler. There were 388 students in the consortium receiving their credentials, and 50 of them were from Brooklyn. Also like to single out several students for recognition. Of the 7 student employees of the month for the school year, 2 are from Brooklyn. Jordan Sobey for dental assisting and Kayla Quintiliano for HVAC. In addition, Kayla was also selected as Polaris Student Employee of the Year.
Wow.
Jordan Sobey was also the outstanding senior student for dental assisting, and Travis Nieves was the outstanding senior for automotive technology. On the building front, interviews are happening now for the candidates for the owner's representative, and schematic drawings for the renovation will be available at our June meeting. Finally, I'm also proud to announce that Polaris Culinary Team took top prize in the National Pro Star Culinary Competition in Charleston. There were over 50 schools represented from across the country, including a team from Guam. Polaris is the first team in the history of the competition to win back-to-back years, which is a tribute to the depth of the program Chef O has set up. And as Bonnie mentioned, as my fellow board members will attest, based on the Associate District Board Members Dinner we all attended, there's some very talented students. I also would like to personally congratulate the 118 graduating seniors that are listed on our agenda tonight. Your hard work has finally come to fruition, and not that it hasn't been hard before, the real work begins. As always, I can be reached at james.oper@brooklyn.k12.ohws or 216-485-8195.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Thank you, I'm sorry. I'll start with the Polaris dinner. I had the beef and the chicken, and they were both good.
Did you take Mrs. Neal's then? Because
It's basically the way it works. I order the beef, she has the chicken, I get half of that. It's real simple. Those kids are phenomenal. I believe you can get their lunch there, and I mean, it's exceptional. Those kids
Reserve
do
it now because it takes about 6 weeks to get in.
Yeah, it's amazing what those kids do, so that's where we'll start with that one. Finance Committee meeting, Rick and I, Dr. Glykoff, Mr. Streett sat down. We have some notes in the board agenda today. Make some recommendations. I think it's what needs to be done here. Some other issues that we talked about just briefly as far as Mr. Streett mentioned about the renewal levy. We need to have that meeting as well too, so we'll have that very shortly. Reminder that Thursday, we all have a meeting, 6 o'clock, right? Everybody's good there? All right. Is you still good? All right.
Is that at 6 or 5:30?
6 o'clock.
We're going to do 6, okay.
If you get there earlier, fine, but let's leave it at 6 since it's already set that way. I'd like to congratulate all the kids. Graduation. June 4th is a special day, Sunday. Hopefully it's about 68, 70 degrees. That'd be nice. Even lower would be nicer. It'd be nice and cool. We'll get out there in about an hour and 15 minutes. That's really all I have to say. Let's move on to the approval of minutes. Our reader tonight's going to be Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be resolved that the minutes of the following Board of Education meeting minutes be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meetings is hereby reaffirmed and approved. The regular meeting on April 18th, 2017, and the special meeting on May 2nd, 2017.
Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of April of 2017, including all purchase orders paid and all then and now statements for the month of April as submitted.
As noted. We're doing it as noted as well, correct?
Yeah, as noted,
On financial
in
summary.
the Treasurer's Office, we have the April 2017 then and now items, the financial summary for April, and the cash flow worksheet for April 2017.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? I would just make a comment to the rest of the boards, and make sure that you open these things up if you haven't already, which I'm hoping we all have. Take a look at them. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mr. Streett. He's very forthcoming in meeting with him and take advantage of his knowledge. The cash flow worksheet, I think, is very important. And the overall financial summary is also as well. So I just make note of that. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter an agreement with the Cleveland Clinic Learners School for Autism for services rendered for the years 2017, 2018 school year. And the letter to the Cleveland Clinic Learners School is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
That reflects actually, this contract is actually for 2 students we have there. 4 students, thank you. We have, that reflects a 3% increase from last year, so.
My question would be, is that per student, that cost that I saw on there?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
We will get some costs back. I know we've probably talked about this in other times. Catastrophic costs. We will get back some costs when we charge that back. But again, you're absolutely right. Some placements are a little more costly than others.
What is the amount that we pay per student to go to that
I
school?
think it says 77,000 on that.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
What is the process, and I don't get the weeds here, in order to get to that point? I mean, is that yourself, Mrs. Jones, with the parent, with their school? Okay. Okay, that's what I figured, and it has to be determined, da-da-da-da.
Due to the unique needs of that particular child.
Correct, okay.
Does that have to be like, you have to approve it also? Like, or if the parent requests to go to that school, do we have any say in that matter? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It really is a team decision, so we
Okay.
do occasionally have parents who request to consider outside placements, but we really need to look at what services we have first and the progress the child's making here in the district. We do everything we can to keep them in this least restrictive environment, but at times the need calls for more intensive services. The clinic provides approximately 11 months of service. They're considered kind of year-round, which some students, just need that level of support.
Thank you. Question, Dr. Glykoff, do you know if Parma goes down there as well?
They do not currently.
All right. I was hoping they would, at least we could hitch a ride there. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following cafeteria prices for the 2017-2018 school year. As noted, for grades K through 5, the schedule and the lunches, breakfast $1.40, lunch $2.60, adult $4, milk is 40 cents. For grades 6 through 12, breakfast is $1.60, lunch is $2.95, adults $4, milk is 40 cents. The price increase of 5 cents for breakfast and lunch prices as executive content.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Questions, comments? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Did Mr. Oper make that motion?
Yes.
He did.
I second it.
Either way.
Mr. Singer?
Yes, he seconded.
I second
He's
it.
asking for the vote.
Rolling.
Oh, you roll call?
I heard Bob, I have Bob as a second.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Mr. Oper.
Oh, okay,
motion,
okay, all right.
Mr. Hennings
I'm
is
okay.
second.
I'm good.
See when I
Yes.
don't make the motion?
Yes,
it just throws
affirmative.
everything off.
Affirmative, yes.
When I don't say it, it just throws everything off.
That's
Mr.
right,
Roper?
Bonnie.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. Have some fun here.
Mr. Neal, may I say that in regards to the Learner Center at Cleveland Clinic, so the price is $77,000 per student. In general, by the time we get reimbursement by the state, which is a year later, that cost is about $40,000. It varies year to year, but it would be about $40,000 by the time we get reimbursement.
Appreciate that. I knew there was reimbursement there.
Okay.
Next one.
Whereas the United States Congress has set aside monies for safe routes to school projects through the State of Ohio Department of Transportation, and whereas applicants can apply for these monies and be selected for funding by the State of Ohio Department of Education, and whereas the Safe Routes to School non-infrastructure project is an activity that is eligible to receive federal transportation funding. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education, State of Ohio, that, 1, the superintendent of the Brooklyn City School District is hereby empowered on behalf of the Brooklyn City School District to prepare and execute an application for SRTS funds for the stated described project and to submit the same to the State of Ohio Department of Transportation. Section 2, the total cost of the project is estimated to be $15,000. The district further agrees to pay 100% of the cost over and above the maximum amount provided by the State of Ohio Department of Transportation. Section 3, upon completion of this described project, the district shall, 1, provide adequate reports and verification of work performed, and number 2, provide a detailed plan for sustaining project once funding is concluded. Section 4, if the application is approved for funding, the superintendent of the Brooklyn City School District is hereby empowered on behalf of the district to enter into a contract with the director of the Ohio Department of Transportation necessary to complete the above described project.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff?
Yeah, this again is the application process. You're probably familiar with the Safe Routes to School grant. I want to give credit to Susie Marquis and her team that have put together this grant in the past. We probably should hear back on this application probably late June or July if we've received it. You know, I guess we're cautiously optimistic again that we would. So what would these funds be used for? What have they been used for in the past? A lot of the Safe Routes to School activities. That has included boots, shoes. Recently, on that horrific Saturday just a couple of weeks ago, it was the Touch-A-Truck event. Even though it rained, I've seen that whole day, I think they still had, 85, 90 kids there that day. And for that activity, they had a bike rodeo. They handed out bikes, bike helmets, locks. A lot of those things are provided for from this grant. So it's a great grant.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck, I'm sorry, Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mrs. Hennings? Mr.
Yes.
Hennings, sorry, Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the Brooklyn High School class of 2017 that submitted provided all requirements for graduation have been met by that day. And on file is the 118 graduating Brooklyn students.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Congratulations.
Good job. Good job, good job. You said 118? Good. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends the following students per the attachment. For the accommodation class of 2017.
Can I have a
Yes,
motion? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is our congratulations to them, and certainly I will be able to congratulate them on the 4th, as you guys will be handing out diplomas to them, so.
Sounds like a plan. All right, good job, kids.
Favorite day.
Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of the following certified personnel as of June 30th, 2017. Angela Andrasik.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just received this resignation yesterday. We get them from time to time at this time of year, pursuing a classroom position, and she's a Title I teacher.
Appreciate that. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following substitute personnel for the 2016-17 school year. Diane Dunlap, bus monitor, cafeteria, classroom assistant, library media secretary, and student monitor effective May 3rd of 2017. Classified on-call is Brittany Miller, who works in the cafeteria, classroom assistant, playground monitor, and student monitor effective on May 8th of 2017.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
We're certainly in need of substitute personnel in the classified ranks, so having a couple extra people is good.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby accepts with regret the following certified retirement effective May 31st, 2017. And that is Michelle Hirsch.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, let me take a moment here with this one. Certainly, we'll get to the commendation of Michelle because she's been in Brooklyn for 31 years. But as we've talked about before, our intent here and my desire is that that Michelle retires and then we look to rehire her for 1 year. Her retirement date would have to be the 31st of this month. So if you approve this resolution, then Mr. Streett would put out a public notice by the end of this month that would say that we are intending to rehire her for a year at a later date. And we'll have to set that date between 15 and 30 days before her rehire. So that's approximately somewhere between July 1st and July 15th. So essentially, when you go to retire, you have to stay out of work for 2 months. So her 2 months will be June and July. Even though our student days end on the 1st, she would actually retire as of the 31st, and we would just have a sub in there on the last day of school. So that's kind of the ins and outs of that.
What subject does she teach?
She actually is home economics, but it's family consumer science, and it's really, to even call it that is probably a misnomer. She teaches a variety of things, even financial literacy for that matter. So that's why, as I've spoken to you guys in the past, looking at having her come back for a year, which is her desire, is actually is good for us because it gives us really a year to kind of recalibrate and figure out how do we, because these are a lot of elective classes that she offers, and they're very popular amongst our students. So to determine what that looks like in the 18-19 year is going to be significant. So
I know, I'm a strong proponent of financial literacy, and I hope that program continues.
I don't mean to interrupt, but today, talking about Mrs. Hirsch, we had a young boy split his pants, and one of the classes was extremely embarrassed. The teacher knew right away where to go to, and Mrs. Hirsch was able to cover those, or sew those pants back up, and like saving grace. Mrs. Hirsch is a legend, and she is one of the best around. Keep her as long as we can.
Good to know, good to know.
In addition to, if the board recalls, we did have a conversation about a savings on that as well, too.
that's a good point, Mr. Neal. With the retirement and the rehiring, it'd probably save the district somewhere about $30,000, I think.
I think it was in that ballpark conversation we had.
Good to know.
All right.
Roll call.
There you go. Appreciate it. I knew I had to do something next. Mr. Streett, could you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Neal, may I interrupt also? I think
Sure.
we missed 5.2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we did employment of personnel.
No, we did that.
We did
Okay.
that.
5.2 is an employment.
I have done that.
Okay. And then we had employment of substitutes, which is also Diana Dunlap.
We did that too.
We only
It's not
have
on here.
one, we only have one resolution
5-2.
with Diana Dunlap. We only have one.
We had Brittany Miller, Diana Dunlap,
Yeah,
Superintendent's
I've
recommendation.
read those.
Yeah, but there's not two is there two resolutions on your paper with Diane Dunlap?
Yeah, so I have
So,
5.2 for employment of classified personnel. Diane Dunlap, playground monitor, 2 hours, 50 minutes per day, Appendix B, Step 1. And then I have employment of substitute personnel.
Brittany Miller.
Diana Dunlap, bus monitor, cafeteria, classroom
We
assistant.
don't have your.
librarian.
yeah, we don't have the first one. You
We don't
said.
have
We're
the-
missing
Yeah,
one
it
of
did,
the
it didn't make it
resolutions.
onto this one here,
Yeah,
Mr.
we-
Streett.
So if I read it, can we vote on it?
Sure.
Do we need to amend the agenda?
We need to amend the agenda to read it off.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I believe that the process is, Mr. President, I make a motion
Sure.
that we amend 5.2 on the employment of substitute personnel.
I need a second on that.
Okay, this would be employment of classified personnel.
No, you can't amend 5.2 because 5.2, we need 5.2.
You might
This is
want
an
to just
additional.
add an additional
We need to add an
resolution.
additional
I think, is
resolution.
what you might want
Well, I
to make
just
a
want
motion
to amend the resolution for employment of substitute personnel.
We don't, I don't, no.
We're gonna have to
No, we
call the
don't.
Groovy
No.
Granola
Yeah.
Cafe to straighten
No,
it
no,
out.
no, no. We don't need to amend that one. We need that one. We need an additional, like, we would need 5.7 is what we need to, we need to amend the agenda to add 5.7.
Yeah.
We could do a 5.2.B.
Yeah, point B. We need 5.2 to stay exactly the way it is, but we just need to add an additional resolution.
Okay.
How's that sound?
I withdraw my motion.
I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it.
No, that's fine.
So,
We're
let's,
gonna amend the agenda to read 5.2.1. And then you're gonna read it, I'll motion it,
I don't have it.
and we'll vote on it.
Yeah. that is
John's
on-
gonna read it.
I'll read it. Okay, so 5.2.1, employment of classified personnel. Action, resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following classified personnel for the remainder of the 2016-27 school year. Diana Dunlop, playground monitor, 2 hours, 50 minutes per day, Appendix B, Step 1, effective May 3rd, 2017.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. We good to go?
Yeah, I gotta figure
All
out,
right.
gotta
I'll
figure
get
out
an
what
Instagram
happened.
from Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be our first one.
Okay. Back to the agenda. Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends Michelle Hirsch for her 31 years of service to the students of Brooklyn.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it,
Congratulations.
31 years.
Thank you for your sewing talents.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. The skills. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2017-2018 supplemental coaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and the State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and first aid training, and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. They are Debbie Hall, varsity volleyball head coach, Ashley Butler, middle school volleyball head coach, Sean Beville, varsity football head coach, Travis Agnew, varsity football assistant coach, Mario Sims, varsity football assistant coach, Damian Ivory, varsity football assistant coach, Dwight Farmer, varsity football assistant coach, Jessica Schneer, varsity cheer coach for fall season, Jessica Schneer, junior varsity cheer coach for fall season, Elsa Rafter, girls varsity soccer head coach, Rebecca Bindus, girls varsity soccer assistant coach, Rob Previtz, girls varsity soccer volunteer, Chris Roglers, is it Rogier?
Rogers.
Rogers.
Rogers. Boys varsity soccer head coach, Jack Bersessi, boys varsity soccer assistant coach, and Josh Gentili, boys varsity soccer volunteer.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Questions, comments? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
No.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of the following preschool CATS employee effective the end of the 2016-2017 school year. That is Kaylee Dalton, who is a classroom assistant.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Kaylee, who is a classroom assistant in our CATS and our preschool, also is a certified teacher, and she's been looking to find a preschool position and actually has. She's accepted employment at Hathaway Brown in their preschool, so.
Good for her.
It's a tough loss. She's a good, very good classroom assistant there.
Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education adopt a attached resolution ranking the energy services firms and authorizing the top firm to prepare and submit the necessary report to the Ohio Facility Construction Commission. The treasurer advised the board that the notice requirements of section 121.22 of the revised code and implementing rules adopted by the board pursuant thereto were complied with for the meeting. The resolution ranking the top 3 firms that responded to the district's request for qualifications for energy services company and authorizing the top-ranked firm to prepare a report for submission to the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission for the purpose of securing approval from the commission for the board to participate in the school energy conservation program. So whereas the district solicited statements of qualifications for services of an energy services company from not less than 3 firms in accordance with section 3318-1-1001 of the Ohio Administrative Code in connection with the district's participation in the school energy conservation program of the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, known as the House Bill 264 program. And whereas the district review team reviewed the submittals of those firms responding to that solicitation. And whereas the review team interviewed or otherwise evaluated each of those firms and pursuant to that process has ranked the top 3 firms. And whereas the review team has provided its recommendation to this board along with additional information deemed pertinent by the board related to selection ranking of these firms. And whereas after reviewing the information considering the recommendations of the review team, this board intends to accept the ranking recommendation of the review team. And whereas this board further intends to authorize top-ranked firm to proceed with preparing a report for submission to the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission addressing the installation of energy conservation improvements that would significantly reduce energy consumption in the buildings controlled by the school district for the purpose of securing approval to and for the board to participate in House Bill 264 program. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of the Brooklyn City School District, Calhoun County, Ohio, that we accept the review in term of ranking recommendations. Section 2, authorization to proceed with the preparation of the report. Section 3, approval and execution of the related documents and actions. Section 4, prior acts ratified and confirmed. Section 5, compliance with the open meeting requirements. And Section 6, establishing an effective date.
Mr. Singer, would you read the section 1 there, that ranks the firms?
Yes. Section 1, acceptance of review team ranking recommendations. The board accepts the recommendation of the review team and determines the following firms to be qualified to provide the required services in the following order of ranking. First is First Juice Technologies LLC, doing business as Plug Smart. Second, Brewer Gear Company. And third, CCG Energy Solutions Incorporated.
Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Did you want to give the Reader's Digest version of that, Mr. Streett?
Yes, I can. So the law dictated that we solicited qualifications from a minimum of 3 firms. We sent requests for qualification to 5 firms, received 3 back. The Finance Committee met 3 times to review what we received back and ask additional questions of the firms via an email. And the last meeting with the Finance Committee, the 2 members of the board that are on the Finance Committee, Mr. Neal and Mr. Singer, ranked the firms for recommendation to the board. The firm will come in, do an energy study of the high school, and determine, we've had some work done, determine of where we can save energy in the high school building. The initial reports were about $50,000 a year to be able to be saved from the energy conservation measures that could take place. Plug Smart will come in, they'll do that study, they'll write it up, submit it to the Ohio Schools Facility Commission. School Facility Commission will give their okay that the guaranteed savings that Plug Smart has estimated are accurate, and then they will go ahead and sign off on it, and we will be able to borrow money, unfortunately. We wish we could have passed the levy to do this, but the PI levy, but we'll borrow money that is a guaranteed payback by the savings that we will receive each year from this project.
Any more? Add to it? It's pretty much, in a nutshell, what the conversation's all about. Plug Smart is responsible for any shortage.
That's correct.
So if they say it's 50 and it's only 40, they owe us 10.
They write us a check.
Just so you know, that's the way that one operates. Knock on wood, we can do something a little bit more in the future, on a bigger scale. But we're gonna do what we have to do. Thank you, Mr. Streett. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School Board of Education adopt the attached resolution for stage rigging and is of urgent necessity. The treasurer advised this board that the notice requirements of section 121.22 of the revised code and the implementing rules adopted by the board pursuant thereto were complied with for the meeting. Resolution declaring an urgent necessity existing authorizing the execution of a contract with Tiffin Scenic outside of statutory competitive bidding procedures for the upgrades and replacement to the high school auditorium stage rigging. Whereas section 3313.46 of the Ohio Revised Code requires boards of education to advertise for bids for a period of 2 weeks when they determine to make certain improvements, the cost of which will exceed $50,000, and to award contracts to the lowest responsible bidder, except in cases of urgent necessity. And whereas the board recently solicited statements of qualifications for professional design services for the upgrades and replacement to the high school auditorium stage rigging, but no responses were received. And whereas the board desires to commence with the upgrades and replacement in order to ensure the availability of the use prior to the commencement of the 2017-18 school year, and whereas this board finds that such circumstances warrant a declaration of a case of urgent necessity and the awarding of a contract for the improvements outside the 2-week bid, advertisement, and other procedures otherwise required under sections 3313.46 of the revised code. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Brooklyn City School District, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, that section 1, the finding of the urgent necessity. For the aforesaid reasons, this board hereby finds and determines, declares, that an urgent necessity exists with respect to the procurement of the improvements as set forth in the preambles to this resolution, that compliance with the relatively lengthy procedures prescribed by section 3313.46 of the Ohio Revised Code could compromise the educational mission of the district, and that said 3313.46 does not apply to the contract approved under section 2 herein. Section 2, approval of the contract. Treasurer of this board is hereby authorized to directly enter into contract for the improvements with Tiffin Scenic in an aggregate amount not exceeding $85,000, which amount is hereby appropriated for this purpose and authorized to be advanced. Section 3, approval and execution of related documents and related action. The president or vice president, treasurer of this board, and the superintendent or such other school district officials, as shall be designated by those officials as appropriate, are each authorized and directed to sign any certificates or documents and take such actions as are desirable, advisable, necessary, or appropriate to consummate the transactions and carry out this work contemplated by this resolution and the contract. Any actions previously taken by the school district officials or agents of this board in furtherance of this matter set forth in and related to this resolution are hereby approved, ratified, and confirmed. And 5, compliance with open meeting requirements. It is hereby found that and determined that all formal actions of this board concerning or related to the adoption of this resolution were taken, and that all deliberations of this Board of Education that resulted in such formal actions were held in meetings in compliance with the law. 6, the captions and headings in this resolution are solely for the convenience of reference and in no way define, limit, or describe the scope or intent of any of the sections, subsections, paragraphs, subparagraphs, or clauses hereof. Reference to a section means section of this resolution unless otherwise indicated. And 7, effective date, this resolution shall be in full force and effective from the date immediately upon its adoption.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Can I drink something? Good job.
Yeah.
I took out a little wood speed reading.
Questions, comments? Let's, you want to start it up?
Certainly, this has been an item that has been a topic with the board probably for at least a year and a half. We've discussed the stage rigging. And let me note, too, that I know that you have spoken about this. We have some contingency dollars available from our pre-K-7 project. So paying for this project out of those contingency dollars is first and foremost. Secondly, certainly we identified that the stage rigging was very, very old when we were identifying some of our roof issues. And, we had some independent analysis to say, do you realize this is the original stage rigging? And do you realize some of those weight systems just can't be used anymore? And do you realize that some of this stuff shouldn't go up and down anymore and cannot go? So when you think about urgent necessity, which are the key words in this resolution, the urgent necessity is certainly the age of this stage rigging, the condition of it currently, as well as the timeliness of trying to be able to do this during a time when we don't have students in the building. So, I appreciated when we were talking about this at our finance committee meeting that, the board and myself and Mr. Streett and Mr. Singer and Mr. Neal, we've really talked about, does this fall into that? And I think it truly does from, those parameters.
Yeah, I do recall Rick and I having a phone call with our former treasurer about setting aside money, being on the finance committee. So we've had this money set aside for, it's going to, probably a year. But I believe you brought this up as there's only a handful of people that do this work. I mean, a handful. You might have to go to Canada. I think you believe you brought up someone from Canada.
Certainly, Tiffin Scenic, which is out of Tiffin, Ohio, does probably a bulk of the work from this in this area. They say they do stuff in Cleveland Playhouse, but they've done stuff out in California. They've done work in China. There's not a lot of companies out there that just do stage rigging and curtains. So you're absolutely right.
And I sent out requests for qualifications for architectural firms and received no responses back.
For their project.
Yeah, for that project. They're too busy. The project is unique. As you mentioned, there are not very many firms that do it. One architectural firm that I talked to said that they would we'd actually be spending money on them that wasn't necessary because they would probably just turn it over to Tiffin Scenic anyway to do the work, so.
Appreciate that. And the one thing I've said all along is the curtains, they may be valuable. Elvis was on that stage, and those are the curtains, so I'm
Mr.
telling
Neal,
you.
I got to check on that because somebody informed me that they did replace the front curtain.
Maybe I'm wrong.
About 15, 20 years ago. So I got to check that.
All right,
I
then I
thought
could
the
be
same
wrong.
thing. I thought we might have some money on our hands,
Right.
maybe so we could.
So no, we can cut it up and make some bucks.
Oh, exactly.
Yep.
We might find Elvis up in that.
Wow.
He's
Question, Mr. President?
he's still in the
Sure.
building.
This is coming in way below what we were anticipating.
Correct.
Originally.
Way below.
Way below.
Remember what
We're
the
talking about
original?
2K, 200K?
Yeah. First it was 200,000. So,
And the figure that was put in the resolution is on the high side. I think the actual quote that we received from the company is roughly 79,000. So just in case there was something would come up, I put in 85 just to cover us.
And I'll add one thing to that is we talked about, and that's separate lighting.
Right.
We were gonna look into separate lighting.
That doesn't include the lighting.
Doesn't include the
Doesn't.
lighting, so
No,
we're gonna
stage
look into
rigging
lighting.
curtains, yeah.
Okay. that'll-
New advancement,
Okay.
yeah. Because some of those lights feel like burners. as we'll find out.
Heat lamps.
They're heat
Yeah,
lamps,
right.
so
They're not
yeah, a
lights,
week
they're
from
heat
Sunday,
lamps.
we'll all get a nice tan burn.
So that is a separate entity there, and we're gonna do the lighting as well, too. So, with that said, we were gonna have it urgent. Hopefully, we can do it by summertime, over the summertime, right? That's the goal?
You know, as we've had some conversation with them, they said the biggest lag in time is just the ordering of the curtains and getting it. Once we put the order in, it's the 7-8 weeks, but he says the actual demo and the work itself is a few days. So,
Good for that. All right. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings is not here. Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that it is recommended that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the 5-year forecast and notes for fiscal 2017 through fiscal 2021. The file is available at the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Would you like
Questions,
me to
comments?
do a short presentation on the 5-year forecast?
Sure.
It's a little better to read than it has been in the past, but
You're
it's...
exactly right.
Yeah, but it's still a little bit small, but that's the best I can do.
I can see it. Give us some highlights here, John.
Yep. Let's see.
Thank you.
So the first line is general property tax real estate, and that's just as it is. It's the real estate taxes that citizens and businesses pay here in Brooklyn. This year, as you can see from last year, at $12,086,033, we have hit $12,000,000.
393.
333, 393, 042. The difference is mainly that there were uncollected property taxes from some of the taxpayers, and they paid up, and so we received that extra money, delinquent property tax collections.
I'm gonna butt in there. I was watching the government budget forecast today. You know what their unfunded collection of, there's like 468 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they usually go, we're not gonna get that.
We're not gonna get that, yep. And the thing with this is we really never know when a taxpayer is gonna pay up and in what size. There could be a really large outstanding tax amount out there that could be out there for a few years, and so we don't really know when it's gonna come. But very positive for us this year. I can't count on that, so for the next year, we'll look at these 2 years, 17 and 18, and I can't count on it for next year, so I've kept that amount consistent from the previous year there. Okay. The next item is unrestricted grants, state foundation payments. So that amount is the amount of money that we receive from the state foundation. Included in that is this year is $339,000 from the tangible personal property supplemental. So the state was helping us keep up with the loss of that tangible tax. They had a piece of legislation trying to make some of the districts that were hit the hardest whole. So we received $339,000 this year to try to make us whole. It's whole is a relative term, but
What would we have lost? Do you know that?
You know, the formula is not very easy to understand, so I can't really give you a good answer on that.
But we'd have lost money if they wouldn't have made us a little more whole.
Yes.
That's all I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
so they brought us up with 339,000. The bad part about that is that there is no supplemental in the state budget for any following years, so we do not get the supplemental next year or any year after that. So basically, that 339,000 that we got this year, we lost it. We won't get it again, so we have to find a way to make up $339,000. The next item is restricted state grants. That 136,000 there is what I am estimating that we'll receive. Most of that is from the catastrophic aid that we talked about earlier. We have about 271,000. That's the max that we're eligible for this year. From what I talked to an individual at the state today, they think that it might be funded at 38%. So out of that 271,000, we might receive 38% of that, which is about 136,000 or a little bit less. So I've included that. I hope next year we'll receive more, but there's a pot of money that is, the more apply, the less there is for everybody. The next item is the property tax allocation. And this includes the state gives homeowners a 12.5% reduction on their property taxes, and the state reimburses it. They passed a law many years ago to give a 12.5% reduction. There's 10.5% and 2.5%. And the state reimburses that because they took it away. Then they passed a law to give it back. The law changed, and that 12.5% reimbursement is no longer eligible for new levies, and we won't receive that going forward. And then in this category, there's also the tangible personal property loss reimbursement, and that is $980,000 for this year. It is reduced by $335,000 from the previous year. So we've lost $335,000 from one year to the next. And then next year, we'll lose $231,000 from this year. So if you combine the $339,000 loss of the supplemental plus the $231,000 loss of the reimbursement, it's a $570,000 loss in these this last year, and we have to make that up some way. It's a loss of revenue. It's not increased expenses or anything like that. It's a loss of revenue. The all other revenue section, the thing that was encouraging this year, it's not something that necessarily will continue, but we try to protect our tax base in the district. And so when there is a commercial or industrial property that we feel is valued lower by the county than what it should be, we file an appeal with the Board of Tax Revision, and there is a hearing that's done, so it's fair to both the taxpayer and to the school. They determine what is a true fair market value, and this year, by some of the process that we've done with that, we have received $257,000 from protecting our tax base. So let's go down. So, these are kind of obvious things. We've got salaries, personnel salaries. This is higher this year because we have a 27 pay year. Employee retirement and benefits, we have gone to the Suburban Consortium, so this amount for this year and these coming years will be less than it would have been. I have not built that into this yet. We'll save $250,000 a year on Suburban savings. And even though rates will, go up as they always do, we are starting at a lower base than what we had previously, 250,000 lower. So that will help us save money going into the future here. And then we have purchase services, things that we can't do ourselves here at the school that we purchase out. And then Educational Service Center provides a lot of educational opportunities for the kids that we can't really provide here in a cost-effective manner. Supplies. And so come down here to speed things up a little bit. So this year, so here's our total expenditures. Up top was our total revenue. We have excess of revenue over expenditures, $1,337,000. It's an anomaly. It's a little bit not really accurate for the reason that right here is other financing sources was $1,241,000 that was advanced back to the general fund as it was paid out last year. So that is not operating revenue, so it doesn't really count, is the easiest way to say it. So we're gonna actually have probably 200,000 or more excess revenue over expenses. So I think that's a pretty positive thing that we've done this year. And so that should hold up when we end the year. Next year, the projection is expenses over revenue of $762,000. But I think as we go through the year, we massage this, I hope to be able to break even again next year. So every year, it's kind of a game that we play is to try to break even. Now, I'd love to be able to do that indefinitely, but the problem is that with that loss of tangible personal property tax revenue, oops, gotta go up here one. We're going to, we're going to be able to make it through, we're going to have a cash fund balance through 2019, and then when we hit 2020, we're going to run out of cash. Now, down here are the levies that I can't put up at the top because the state won't let me. You can't assume that those levies that we have will pass. We have a levy, operating levy next year coming due, and 2 in 2020. So 1 in 2018 and 2 in 2020 operating levies. So we will have a cash deficit in 2020, even with those operating levies, of $268,000. And then it grows very quickly, even with the passage of those operating levies, to $2,911,000. So at some point in the future, we will need to have additional operating income. But again, we will try to cut expenses and do as many things as we can to break even every year. But we just won't be able to outrun that loss of tangible personal property tax reimbursement from the state. Years ago, the state took out the tangible tax, which was on plant and equipment for businesses to give them a competitive advantage with other states. And they said that that money would be made up by a cat tax. And it just never has been made up. I read something where one of the senators or House of Representative individuals said, well, we can't be responsible for what they said years ago. So,
shocking, a politician.
So really there just isn't the funds to be able to make any of that up. We say, they said years ago we'd be able to make it up in cat tax, and it just didn't happen. So we just have to deal with it and do the best we can.
John,
Yes.
when is the next property tax valuation from the county? When is it?
They will do the reappraisal in 2018.
2018.
And then we'll receive collection on that reappraisal from inside millage will give us increased value, and then also new construction, which we get every year. But in 2019, we'll see the effects of that reappraisal.
In 2019?
2019.
That soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is, Mr. Singer, it's not built into here, and I try to be conservative. And so then when we end the year and things look a lot better, it's a lot better feeling than if I overestimated things. I said, you know what, I thought we'd have money, we don't. So,
Nice.
yep.
Okay,
Mr.
appreciate
Streett,
that.
Another question on 3.010, personal services. Did you, going forward after 18, did you just put a percentage across the board starting, yeah?
Yeah, there's just, off the top of my head, there's probably a 3.5% built into there, off the top of my head.
Okay.
And that's just, you know, 'cause there, see, that's a negative, is a 1.7 there.
Right.
And that would have been from reductions in force, I think, and some things for the previous year. Just going forward, I found it easier just in, you know, somewhat, you know, as accurate as you can get to just attach a percent value going forward as it's what has been consistent in the past. And then through the year, we look and see how it's actually going to come out,
Right.
and then make some adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much. I'll let you sit down and then, Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings is gone. Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal.
Yes. Almost there.
Okay. Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the permanent appropriation revisions for fiscal year 2017 per the attachment, which is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Streett, do you need to?
I just increased the appropriation just to make sure that there were no negative line items.
Okay.
And this is, actually, my estimates of this year are below what I thought we'd be spending, but I just increased this to cover us for the auditor. So, yep. So
Appreciate that.
That's it.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
Just to make sure for clarification. John, are we made whole again? Are we going to, I know this is all appropriations, we appropriated $500,000 for the stadium project. So now, are we made whole again?
I've been working on getting the figure. We talked about that about 2 weeks ago, and I told you I'd get on that right away. And I'm still working on the figure to send to the insurance company for the remaining $200,000 that we're owed. And so I can't guarantee that we'll get it by the end of the year, but I will press them to say we have a fiscal year end, and please reimburse us by that time. But I met with the boosters treasurer and made sure that we had numbers for that, and I will go through the details of the expenses to make sure we're correct, and then send off basically an invoice to the insurance company, say this is what we owe for sure, or this is what you owe us for sure
Okay.
of our loss.
Anything else? Good. Anybody else? Mr. Streett, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. Any correspondence related to action information?
I have none.
Any other business?
The June meeting, the regular meeting, if we could look at changing it from
Yes,
the
the week.
20th to the week before, any day the week before.
Look at your schedules for, what is that, June 11 through 15 or somewhere
Yeah, June
around there?
12th through the 16th. Isn't Polaris one of those nights?
Yeah, Polaris will be the 12th.
Okay, so the 12th is out then, so like the 13th,
Is it a
14th,
Tuesday?
15th?
12th, I'm assuming. Let's look at,
The 13th, 14th, or
or
15th?
11, if Monday's a good day or not a good day.
Monday's not because he has a Polaris
Monday's
meeting.
the 12th.
So Monday's out, so it's either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Everybody look at that week?
Wait, no, Tuesday the wait a minute. The week of the 20th, right?
No.
No,
we're talking
that's
about
when
the
our regular
first-
meeting is.
Right,
We're
that's what
trying
I'm
to
saying.
push,
Okay,
we're
the
trying
week
to
of the-
push it up
We're
one
gonna
week.
push it up 1 week.
Um,
June 13th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, June 13th is a Tuesday.
That would be your
Monday,
Polaris,
Monday,
right?
Wednesday, yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday's fine with me.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay, so the 14th or the 15th?
So let me just clarify. Monday, the 12th is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Monday the 12th is okay now.
Monday,
it's
the 12th is
Tuesdays.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday would be the problem day for me
Okay,
that
so the
week,
Monday's
so we
fine with
could
me.
do the 12th.
We could do the
Because I know
12th.
we had thought about that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
That would be a regular meeting, and then we also need to look at June, if we can get, well,
The week before is like, do you want to do the first Monday of the month meeting?
you want to try and
Or
get...
the Tuesday?
Everybody look at the schedule for the June 5th?
5th?
June 5th.
Look
or
at
6th,
June
maybe.
5th for the work session.
That's
So-
fine.
And then let's look at June 12th for the regular board meeting for June.
Yes.
Yep.
Everybody check their calendars,
Yeah,
call me
so-
back, text me back, email me back,
I'm
whatever.
fine with both
So
of those.
5th is okay?
5th is okay, and then the 12th is okay.
Let's
with
go
me.
Alright.
June 5th, June 12th.
Then what
Yes.
I'm gonna do then, in light of the transportation conversation we had before, that might be the night that Parma does. So I don't think there should be issue if we did it both on the same night. But I don't see one there.
Well, do you want to wait to go to the 6th then, or?
Let's, if the 5th is good for people, that's gonna be the day right after commencement, so.
Is the 5th the boosters meeting though? What day is the boosters
Oh,
meeting on
do
a
they
Monday?
do it the first Monday?
Yeah.
It's first
So
Monday.
then we
You wanna
can't do
look
it
at you wanna look at the 6th?
6th
Let's look at June 6th.
and June 12th.
And that would work better, because then we would know what the department.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
so maybe we do the
Let's
6th then.
let's look at June 6th, everybody
For our
confirm
work
that.
session, okay.
6th is fine with me.
Email back, text
6th
back,
and
whatever
12th is
works
fine with
best.
me.
June 6th for work session, June 12th,
Regular
regular
meeting.
schedule. All right, got it moving. Anything else?
So are we gonna announce for the next one, are we gonna?
Yeah.
We can do the 12th, okay.
Now, so the next regular, I gotta pull my glass, regular meeting of the Board of Education is going to be June 12th, 2017, in the Media Center located in Brooklyn Intermediate Elementary, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Do we need to amend the agenda, or no, it's fine?
It's fine.
That's fine.
I think we're good there. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nice second, okay. Motion me. Mr. Streett, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bocek?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. All right.